and welcome to another episode of our From the Helm series live here at Bell Potter's Healthcare Conference for 2025 in Sorrento, Victoria. I'm Grady Wolf, Market Analyst with Bell Direct, with a familiar face today, Alan Taylor, the Executive Chairman of Clarity Pharmaceuticals, a clinical stage company developing products to address the growing need for radiopharmaceuticals in oncology. So a massive name, a name that investors might be familiar with over the last 12 months, the share price running red hot. Alan, tell us about what you've been up to in the last 12 months and for our investors who may not know the Clarity story.
Yeah, sure. So Clarity's a great Australian story.
I love it.
Homegrown, right from the benchtop.
Yeah.
Down this way, actually, University of Melbourne, derived, and it's in this fascinating area of radiopharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
This is a big topic now of targeted therapies. We want to target cancers the best we can. Mm-hmm. We want to image them, find them first, and then treat them.
Yeah.
And we can do that all, when we're talking about Clarity Pharmaceuticals, with one molecule. We can do imaging and treat with one molecule just by changing the different isotope.
Yeah, so you came up with some results to the market very, very recently. Can you tell us about what you're seeing and how pivotal these results were?
We did, and I can. It's been a process. Now, I just spoke about science, doing great science.
Yes.
And we like doing that. We like making new molecules which are better than the current molecules so that we get better outcomes. But we also like structuring clinical trials in a way that we get the best outcomes as well. So in our space, historically, people have just picked a dose and actually just treated patients and hope for the best.
Yeah.
What we've done over the last little while is a dose escalation trial to try and find what's the optimal dose.
Yeah.
And this is very rare globally for a radiopharmaceutical company to do this. But we can do it because we have real trust in our products to be better. Yeah. And we've done that. And so the data we're talking about now is accumulation of single dose in the first instance at low dose, 4 gigabecquerels, 8 gigabecquerels, 12 gigabecquerels, and then multi-dosing. And we've completed all of that. When we looked at all the data, we found outstanding results in that when we go, because it's in prostate cancer, it's in metastatic castrate-resistant prostate cancer, when we divvied up between pre-chemotherapy and post-chemotherapy, the pre-chemotherapy had a 92% success rate of treating these patients. When we say 92% of the patients, so we're talking, it was just a cohort of the whole group. 13 patients, only one didn't respond.
Wow.
Phenomenal outcome.
Very good outcome.
All the others had drops in PSA of greater than 35%.
Yeah.
And as we built that up, we also had one of the patients, 2 doses of complete response. Now that's very similar to what we had at the 8 gigabecquerels.
I remember this one. It was out last year. Someone was completely cleared. And
still today, they do not have cancer. And that was the first time we dosed twice at any level, was at 8 gigabecquerels at what we thought was going to be a therapeutic dose, and their cancer disappeared. And they live today cancer-free. Now,
that's unheard of.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
It's fantastic.
So, and now when we accumulate all that data, it shows that pre-prostatectomy, when I say overwhelming majority, all but one have responded positively. Yeah. We've had great effects. We've had a large percentage, half of that group having PSA drops of greater than 80%. Yeah. And the majority of that's with the single dose. Wow. So phenomenal outcome. When we look at post-chemo are a much more difficult patient group to treat. They're much sicker, much more progressed, high PSA levels.
Something else has been in there to kind of mess with it already.
That's right. Their bodies aren't as strong then. And so, but what we've seen in that was really the 4 gigabecquerel dose. We had 4 patients there at the lowest dose that didn't respond. Yeah. But when we went up to higher doses, we had great responses. Yeah. So even in the post-chemo, it's been a great response. Yeah. Now we're moving, firstly, our clinical programs into that pre-chemo. It's a much bigger market, 3 or 4 times bigger than the post-chemo, and gives us much better opportunities to have potentially curative outcomes, which we're looking for.
Incredible. So for our investors who don't know how the system works and how the drugs work, can you tell them how it works? So a patient goes into a clinical trial and what happens then?
So, and it really, they're infused. Our molecules are sophisticated. Yeah. So we build them in a way that firstly we can target the cancer. And so when we infuse it, it goes and finds the cancer and accumulates on the cancer. Yeah. But we have a cage which holds a warhead or a payload. You can call it either. And part of that then is firstly to image. So the same molecule is imaged first. So we infused, image, and see where the cancers are.
Yeah.
And then we treat with a different one, copper 67. Now we made, and what is our real secret sauce here is, we made a product very similar to everyone else's.
Yeah.
A PSMA targeting molecule with a single targeting moiety, and we found ours was just as bad as theirs. Okay?
It's good to be honest.
It is. And so we went back to the benchtop, and once again, University of Melbourne, that we're working closely with, and we made one, and it sounds simple in context. It has two of those targets.
Yeah.
And the cage in the middle, and all of that's optimized with great chemistry. And we found there was 2 to 3 times the uptake of that product in the lesions.
So just not enough initially.
Yeah, so we get a lot more now, and then it's internalized, so it stays there over time.
Yeah.
So that means 2 things. That means in therapy, we have a lot more product in the cancer, and then it's zapping the cancer and killing the cancer and making it going away. And that probably explains why we get such drastic results with 1 dose.
Yeah.
When the competing products are using 6 doses.
Yeah.
Right? So, but the other thing is imaging becomes a lot better.
Yeah.
You get a lot more of the product there, and it stays there over time, and then we can image on the same day. But sometimes when you look at the physiology, it takes a little bit longer to get there, and then sometimes we can detect lesions better on the next day, which means we're finding much smaller lesions.
That is just phenomenal how it all works. Now, you did return from a trip recently to the US, but your intentions have always been to keep it Australian made. Is that still the plan?
It is. I'm an Aussie through and through.
So we are. We love an Aussie story.
Yeah. And so I did all of this, going back over a decade ago, and my plan was to translate from the benchtop. And we've done that. Clarity was a couple of provisional patents when I first came across it, and now we're in phase 3 clinical trials, diagnostically phase 2 therapeutically with some great products. The part of the issue is we need to actually, when we are growing a biotech, we have to take into account the US. It's the largest market on earth.
Yeah.
It has much better reimbursement and those sorts of things, which means it funds back to investors.
Yeah.
But we have a strong focus here where we work very closely to an excellent key opinion leader, Professor Louise Emmett.
Yeah.
In our city of Sydney.
Yes.
So it's St Vincent's Hospital.
Yes.
And she is amazing. And we're setting up, as I said, a centre of excellence and doing all of our trials there. The secure trial, the therapy trial, and the diagnostic trials, Clarify and Amplify.
Yes. So talking about those two, tell us about what's going on with Clarify and Amplify right now.
Yeah, so they're going well. So just to break those up so people know what we're talking about.
One versus the other therapy versus.
It's the same product.
Yeah.
It's that SAR-BIS PSMA, copper 64 diagnostically, firstly in pre-prostatectomy. So a patient goes in, they start getting rising PSA, they realise they've got a tumour growing in their prostate. You want to try and see whether that has escaped the prostate.
Yeah.
The reason why you want to do that, it's a quite important decision for a man. You're making the decision whether you're going to become impotent and incontinent for the rest of your life.
Yes.
And if you are, and you still have cancer, that's a very bad outcome.
Yeah.
So what we're doing there is imaging on the same day and next day to see if we can pick up lesions outside of the prostate. Okay. So hopefully, eventually, we can better treat, so then patients may not suffer those consequences.
Yeah.
And we might have much better therapies to approach more of a systemic approach. That is Clarify, pre-prostatectomy. Amplify is in what's called biochemical recurrence.
Yes.
Now that's a funny name, but it actually just means the cancer's growing back.
Okay.
So you have the prostatectomy, take the prostate out.
Yeah.
And then your PSA starts going up.
Yeah.
And then you want to find that cancer as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So this is where we're imaging, once again, same day and next day, to try and pick up the smallest lesions we can. And if we pick up very small lesions, we have a better opportunity for, once again, curative outcomes.
Wow.
Now, that might be external beam radiation or other therapies, but the earlier we can get it, and this is quite logical, the earlier we can get it, the better the outcomes are. The later we get it, then it spreads to other places, then the outcomes are going to be worse for the patient. We want to get much earlier stage disease, treat better, treat earlier, and have people live a little longer.
Exactly. You're doing wonderful things so far. Now, finally, there are already 4 radiopharmaceutical agents available on the market, but you've just gained priority and fast track for your agent to enter the market. Why do you think there's still room for one more competitor in the market, and why do you think you gained this fast track approval process?
Yeah, great question, Grady. It's interesting. So fast track designation is actually quite hard to get.
Yeah.
And we have 3 for the one molecule.
Oh, because one's not enough?
When you're going good.
Yeah.
So one is for the therapy, because there's a higher met need to have better therapies.
Yeah.
And then 2 are for the diagnostic, 1 for pre-prostatectomy and 1 for biochemical recurrence.
Okay.
Now, where we compete is this. Those other 4 that you're talking about use very short half-life isotopes.
Okay.
Gallium has a 1-hour half-life. Fluorine has a 2-hour half-life.
Yeah.
So you can only image on the same day.
Okay.
And what we've found, and the other part to this story is they use the single targeting.
Not the 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
So less uptake, and then you can't image at later time points.
Like the next day, like you've talked about.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
You can only image maybe a couple of hours later, and
Yeah.
that's it.
And it's done.
It's done.
Wow.
No opportunity to image later.
Okay.
So, and what that's produced is, yes, those products are better than the previous imaging techniques, which is bone scan.
Yes.
And so, because they have very high specificity, it means if you can actually see if it targets it.
Yeah.
The problem with them is they have low sensitivity.
Okay.
And that means all the things we're talking about, if it doesn't light up, it doesn't mean it's not cancer
Yeah.
if you have low sensitivity. We want to find the cancer.
Yeah.
So the FDA have looked at all our data and said, wow, pre-prostatectomy, with the next day image, same day, next day imaging, we have a better opportunity to potentially to find more lesions outside the prostate to treat.
Yeah.
In biochemical recurrence, we can find lesions much earlier. So they've said, okay, we're going to work with you. There's a high unmet need here. We know the sensitivity issues with these agents. We want these products to get to market as quickly and efficiently as possible.
And that's what you want to hear.
Yeah, and that's exactly the same for the therapy.
Yeah.
There is a product out there, Pluvicto. Once again, it's a single targeting moiety. It only has a certain dose.
Yeah.
We've gone about it, let's make a better product.
Yeah.
And let's go head to head with that product and see what we can do. And the FDA said, amazing data, go for it.
Amazing times and a big year ahead for you. Thank you so much, Alan, for joining us today for our From the Helm here at Bell Potter's Healthcare Conference. Big things to come for Clarity Pharmaceuticals, and we can't wait to see the journey.